Hi, I'm Corey Kiesewetter, Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Forcepoint, covering cloud security solutions. And today I'm here with Nate Springer to talk to you about an exciting update to the new Forcepoint ONE security platform that we've launched earlier this year. Now, Forcepoint ONE was brought together to deliver a more unified and easy to use security platform that brings together the capabilities of multiple different security products, namely Cloud Access Security Broker, or CASB, Zero Trust Network Access, or ZTNA, and Secure Web Gateway, or SWG. Now, today we're going to be focusing specifically on the SWG component, or web security component of the Forcepoint ONE Unified Security Platform. Now, at launch, the capabilities for web security were already industry leading in terms of the unique distributed architecture. And what I mean by this is that Forcepoint ONE, in order to protect web security, does require an agent on the end user device. And that agent can locally determine what to do with the web traffic. If it should be blocked, do that locally. If it's allowed to go direct to the site. This allows the fastest performance. There are also actions that we can use to scan for malware, block DLP, and block access to unsafe or risky sites. This is what the update today is all about. Sometimes there are scenarios where users have a legitimate business need to access unknown or unsafe web content. Really, they're trying to access web content regardless of what risk is there. But with current technology, there's typically not a way to do this unless we're using remote browser isolation, or RBI technology. Gartner and other analysts have talked about remote browser isolation technology as basically the only zero trust approach to web browsing. And it's unique amongst web security technologies by air gapping the actual web session from the end user's device. So any malware or any threats that may be on that site can't actually touch the end user's device. So today I'm excited to bring the news that Forcepoint RBI is now available for integration with Forcepoint ONE Web Security. So if you are an organization that is using Forcepoint ONE or looking to start using Forcepoint ONE, and you need to allow your users to safely interact with unknown or unsafe web content, you now have the capabilities to do this. And what's unique about Forcepoint ONE? Well, there's a few things. First, the end user experience. Compared to just about every other RBI vendor out there, you will notice that the end user experience is so seamless, users often have no idea that their web traffic is being isolated. In fact, when we rolled out a new capability in January, one of our RBI customers had the exact same reaction. He said support cases dramatically dropped because nobody knew that their web traffic was being isolated. Now, this customer was letting us know previously that they were getting some support tickets not related to any issues with the technology, but out of unfamiliarity with the technology by the user population. Other solutions use a browser within a browser, which is even clunkier for user experience. And again, these sorts of things result in increased workload on your support desk admins, fielding tickets for non-issues. Now, with a Forcepoint RBI, we can get past these concerns, as well as getting past administrator concerns with how to set up RBI policy, when to use which mode. We've automated all of that. This was the release that came out in January for Forcepoint RBI with the smart isolation feature. Forcepoint is the only RBI with an embedded intelligence to automatically switch between RBI modes to balance both security and performance, to always give the best of both to our end users. Now, to help show this unique technology in action, My colleague Nate Springer, the director for the CSE team at Forcepoint, covering Forcepoint ONE, is going to walk us through a live demonstration of this RBI technology, as well as one of the other unique differentiators, the embedded zero trust content disarm and reconstruction, or CDR technology, that is built into Forcepoint RBI to handle file downloads. This way, users can now access websites and download and use files in the original file format, regardless of what malware was present originally on that file or on that website. They can interact and use these without any fear of getting infected. Nate, do you mind showing us how this works?
Absolutely. Thank you, Corey. So first of all, let's start with the agent, showing the agent installed. So the agent is installed and required for RBI. And so when the user opens their local native browser and they browse to a site that we would typically block, we may have a scenario where we don't want to block that because we need to do some research. Maybe we have a red-blue team. They need to do just some additional investigation on some threats. But let's take, for example, a gaming industry, right? So typically we're going to block gambling. So if I were to go to gambling.net and the user is going to be presented with a notification that says you've been isolated, right? And so the user says, okay, no problem, I'll continue on. And the user is then taken to the site and can interact with this site, but safely. How do you know that you are being isolated here? So there's a couple things. There's a star in the, you got the Forcepoint logo, first of all, and then you have the star as well. And then there's a really kind of faint like logo at the bottom right, which allows the user to see the threat level and any other additional information about this. Now, what you also notice here is if I do right click, we are controlling through RBI, the right click capabilities of this website. So you can see that this right click is very limited and it has been removed for the purposes of being able to get to this site and do the investigation and research. So again, this site will still perform very fast, right? And the user can get their work done, do their investigation, but also protect that end user, that machine, the company-owned asset that they have. And so here, sorry.
No, I was just going to take a moment and let people know how useful this is. Oftentimes, we see a lot of interest in use of this technology, specifically within insurance agencies, law enforcement, doing investigations, as well as financial institutions for loan officers as they're doing research to grant approval or not for a loan. Oftentimes they have to research websites that were literally just created, have no established history or reputation, and oftentimes these are sites that are downloaded, or and oftentimes these are sites that are blocked from access altogether. So what we're seeing here is, without RBI, typically a site like this is going to be blocked, and we have no way of actually interacting with it. Across all those examples, now we have real ways of using, with a fast, sharp user performance, any site, regardless of the risk present.
Yep, excellent. Thank you, Corey. And another example I'm going to give here is a site that kind of straddles both lines, right? Both sides of the fence. So it's an application, Box or Dropbox. And this particular application can be a managed application that your company might actually license. And we can put security around that, maybe using CASB. But what if they don't license it? Now it's actually an untrusted site. So believe it or not, these sites are actually one of the places that distributes most malware. So your SharePoints and your Dropboxes and your boxes, those sites are usually the place where most malware is going to be distributed. So we still want to protect the endpoint, of course, and we don't want to allow any malicious content to be downloaded, whether this user's, again, in this scenario, it's going to be a personal Dropbox, right? We allow the user to go there. You can see that the user was presented again with an isolation notification. And so if I go ahead and log into my demo account here, I'll go ahead and show.
This brings up another idea. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, but don't we also have the capability with Forcepoint ONE to In this example, let's say an organization uses Dropbox. They have a corporate sanctioned account for that. They could manage that with the CASB capabilities within Forcepoint ONE. And as you mentioned, Box personal instances of Dropbox, things like that are often used to move malware around. Could they then use RBI to address all other instances and then use CASB to address the managed corporate instance?
Yes, most likely, yes. So the idea would be that we treat the managed app with this agent. We will actually treat that traffic first, but we do have ways of identifying a personal instance that is not of a particular domain, perhaps, that we have licensed that the agent would know about. So therefore, the other instances would be treated as unmanaged. So yes, that is definitely a possibility. Now, what I'm going to show you quick before we get into the actual CDR piece. Now, CDR is integrated through RBI, so CDR can only be implemented currently today through the RBI implementation. So I do have a folder locally here called RBI that has a file in it that has been unedited, so it's 1.5 meg. And I'll open this and you'll see right away that it runs a macro as soon as it executes. Therefore, this could be considered malicious, and we want to prevent this type of stuff from happening. So I will close this and we'll go back to Dropbox, and we will go into that same folder. This is that same file, and we'll go ahead and download that within the RBI session. And what you'll notice is it's going to say in the bottom left hand that it's going to sanitize this file. Therefore, I am left with a file, and we'll look at it in the folder view. It is only 849K now, which means that this file was somehow edited. So what CDR did was remove the macros inside of this. So this file is no longer dangerous to the end user. So the idea is the content disarm. So it tears this file apart, cleans it up, and then puts it back together, allowing the user to download that file to get their work done.
I like to think about it as bleach for files. It basically sanitizes automatically anything that may be there so that you're able to use it in its original format.
Absolutely. Yeah, great point there. So now how do we make this work, right? How does everything I just showed you, what type of configuration is required to do this? So very simple, by the way. So within the admin portal, there's only one place we need to go to enable this. It's your RBI profiles. And in here, I'm using personal storage profile to handle my Dropbox, my box, and personal storage type locations. I have some options here within the profile to set a safe surf threat levels. Now, safe surf would have been a little bit different. We would not have been able to enter any text or anything like that into the site had we gone to something that was very risky. So we can control that. We can also handle the TLS errors and different type of certs that we receive, as well as do we want to allow downloading of files in general. So if we did not want to allow that and just allow users to go to the site but do nothing else, that is a possibility. Now, in order for CDR to be enabled, we want it to allow those downloads so that CDR can actually sanitize that file prior to being downloaded to that device. There are a few modes here. There's AV scan to check for threats within the file, and then there's CDR, which actually disarms it, cleans it, and lets the user download it. Again, controlling uploads as well within this profile. Now you can have multiple profiles here. So I can have multiple profiles. I can apply these to multiple scenarios. I have AD groups. I can apply them to different types of groups. Maybe a marketing group needs a specific type of profile to handle different types of websites differently than, let's say, an HR group, right? So they're totally different. So different scenarios may arise for those. So how do I apply that? Once I create those policies, this secure web gateway content policy here is going to be pushed down to the agent. So what I'm doing here in my very first policy is I haven't really identified any groups or devices or locations, although those are options, but I've identified categories, and I've chosen gambling, malware sites, personal storage, spyware, adware as the sites that I want to isolate. And when I isolate that, when I choose that as my option, I choose the profile and apply that profile. So therefore, I can configure multiple policies here, again, to handle different scenarios. So very simple, very easy. It's all under one UI, one dashboard here, and very simple to apply this. So you really only have two locations to set up the configuration. Now, the example I did show you, we do have the ability to monitor logs. So as users are out there browsing out in the wild and doing different things, we want to send this data, first to the Forcepoint ONE system. And then from there, we may integrate and push it out to a SIM. And then from there could happen to do other things, right? We'll allow this to load here. And then what I'll do is I will create a filter that's going to look for just the isolated instances. So we'll go ahead and look at that now. And this will show the isolation that we did during the demonstration. And we can look at the data that is being pulled or sent back to the admin portal here. And from there could be sent on again to a SIM. So we'll just give this a minute to parse through those.
And another thing.
Sure.
And another thing to point out, this whole time for where the policy is set up, we're in one place. This is the Forcepoint ONE console for policy management. Other solutions for SSE that are trying to converge these sorts of capabilities, oftentimes you don't see a single console that manages policy across everything, or a single place to inherit all of the telemetry you want to view. That's one of the big issues and why SSE is becoming such a hot commodity. It is bringing together disparate things, not just for ease of management, but for consistent visibility, so that you don't have one tool telling you one thing and another tool governing another part of that transaction or traffic telling you something different. We have a consistent way of understanding risk and what users are doing with different applications and websites across the organization. It allows better efficacy and lower and reduced false positives.
Yep, absolutely. So as you can see through the demonstration that we showed, we visited gambling.net. We also went to Dropbox, and the web categorizations here are notified. And if I do click into any of these, it's going to give us some additional information about that session. And, policy ID is going to tie back to that policy that we created on the Protect policy page. You'll get some information about the source, the user that was actually trying to go to that location. And then further, you'll see that in the bottom here, the destination and its risk and everything associated with that particular site that we did isolate. So, logs do come back here to web, and we also display them in multiple dashboards as well as push them out to other SIMs. And that's all I have for a demo, Corey. Now I'll hand it off to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nate. I really appreciate it. And I'm betting our viewers did as well. Couple questions. RBI, is it available as a standalone as well as part of Forcepoint ONE, correct?
That is correct. Yes. So what you saw today was the integration piece for Forcepoint ONE. There is an option to do a standalone RBI installation, which would not necessarily be correlated to what our policies are in here, but would perform the same type of functions.
And I've often heard those can also be more popular in critical infrastructure and government agencies oftentimes. But a lot of the other businesses that are going to be operating outside of those spheres are looking for convergence, looking for an easier way to do the many different security functions from one tool. So this is a great way of addressing that. But if you have other needs for a full RBI for all web traffic for your organization, that is also something we can address. Now, for existing Forcepoint ONE customers or former BitGlass customers, how complicated is this to add this additional feature?
Well, the nice thing about the Forcepoint ONE portal is the fact that the update is a cloud-driven update, meaning that the admin portal that you log into, the updates are pushed to the whole infrastructure. So therefore, if you're licensed for this, it may be just a matter of turning the license on, and it will be available to you. Even the nicer thing, maybe quickly I can say about the agent is capable of many, many things, and it's becoming more and more powerful. So if RBI was an option, and today you're only licensed to have maybe CASB and Secure Web Gateway, but not RBI, it's really just a matter of turning on a license in the back end that would become show the available options for you inside the UI here to configure it. And you would not need to update the agent as long as you're running the latest agent that we currently have today.
So as long as you're running the latest agent and you have the full Forcepoint ONE cloud security that covers all SWG, CASB, and ZTNA, it's just adding a license for RBI, and you should be able to set up the management in this console. However, there are also some customers that don't have the full solution, the full SSE capability set, that only have CASB. Now, for those customers, they would have to upgrade and add the SWG capability, because web security is really what RBI is addressing. So if we don't have the web security service as part of Forcepoint ONE, we will need to make sure we're licensed for that, because that's what RBI adds on to. And for anybody that does not yet have a converged security solution, for anybody that is looking into SSE solutions, I highly encourage you to look into Forcepoint ONE and all that it can do, not only from a security efficacy standpoint, but how easy is it to manage, and what does the end user experience look like? Always keep those in mind. And with that, I think we're good. Thank you for joining me today, Nate. It's my pleasure to share this information, this update with all of you watching.
Likewise, thank you.